Hey, there's a really great arpeggio pattern living inside this book by Paco Peña. He didn't invent this arpeggio, but anytime I come across anything similar to it, I call it the Paco Peña arpeggio. But the reason it's so great is it really makes us work out a certain finger in our right hand that we all have trouble with. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to play this arpeggio, why it's beneficial, how he uses it in that book, and how we can use it ourselves in different ways and modify it and even isolate the most important part of it to get more of a technique benefit in less time and come up with something new. Here's how this arpeggio sounds. This is from a song called El Nuevo Dia, which is the Colombianas from that book, and it sounds like this. Now we're applying it here in the key of A major to an E7 and A chord, but before we get to all that, let's look at just the arpeggio itself. You can write this or think of this in 2/4 or 4/4 time, but I'm doing it here in 4/4 time. And we have our thumb, then we have the ring, middle, index, and you've probably been doing that for years if you're playing nylon string guitar. Thumb, ring, middle, index, that is the backwards arpeggio, right? Thumb, ring, middle, index, except he's gonna go really quickly here and play the ring in the middle twice as fast. So we go 1 and a 2, and then your thumb plays on the and of 2. 1 and a 2 and now we take these two fingers, the ring in the middle, at the same time and play a little bit of an abbreviated block chord like that. Ring and middle at the same time. So far we have, and now we play index finger, and then we have thumb again. Make that a rest stroke if you can, and then another block chord. So that is the whole measure. Sounds like this. A lot of cool stuff going on here. This is basically like a Roomba rhythm in the bass. We go like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. We can think of it as all continuous eighth notes except for that quick part of 16th notes. So we're going to go 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you might already know, I'm sure you do, that in both hands our ring finger sucks. I mean, our pinky sucks even more, but in the right hand we don't even use it because it sucks so much, right? It's such a hard finger to use that we don't really use it except for when we do raw scales like that. But even in more modern raw scales, we don't even use the pinky for those either. So here you could say, at least for the right hand, that the worst finger is our ring finger. It just doesn't cooperate as much or as well as the other fingers. So we just need to exercise it more. That's true in both hands. So what's happening here, the benefit of this is that we go really quickly, ring, middle, and then we're back to something slow. So it's kind of like what we could call a speed burst, which is a great way to work on a bunch of different techniques. So the benefit here is quickly going like that and then kind of emptying out and relaxing. So we're working our worst finger a little bit harder. And you may have never played a block chord without the index finger, just these two. So I think that's another good reason to know the entire measure of this arpeggio. We got these two guys, and trying to juggle that between that and an index finger free stroke. Just that alone is a great little exercise. Ring and middle together, and then index. So let's take that arpeggio and plug in the chords that he uses in that song. Okay, we've got an E7 chord here with our pinky on D. It's E7 whether we have our pinky down or not. It just sounds a little bit better when we have that down. That's my opinion. And then we're going to go to A major like this, playing it that way, the flamenco way of playing an A chord. And we're just going to do one measure each. And we play the root of the chord every time, and then go to the next string for the next thumb stroke, and the next string for the next one. There's going to be an exception to that when we get to A major, but let's look at this. See, in the interest of keeping the thumb playing a low-sounding bass string, he plays this string twice because he's kind of out of strings, especially because that string is occupied by the index finger stroke that we're going to do there. So on the A chord, we go 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4 and. Great, great arpeggio pattern. What he really does with the chord gives us a bonus ring finger exercise in the left hand while we're working on the right hand. So watch, we have E7 here, and with your ring finger play F sharp, and then take it off. Do the same thing on the A chord. Ring finger on F sharp, that makes that an A major 6 chord, and back and forth. When you put an F sharp over an E7 chord, that's E9. That's very weird. I remember when I first learned this song, that was so weird, keeping all these fingers down and going up and down like this. Really great exercise. That would be something to do just with your left hand, just in front of the TV. One of those exercises where we put all of our fingers down and maybe just move one finger around. Super awesome for dexterity. Really weird. But you can get good at that while you're, like I said, while you're watching TV or not really spending too much cognitive capacity, and get that muscle memory stuff down so that when you play a song, your fingers are ready to go. So in the riff itself, it looks like this. And then on A, now what I do when I find something that I like or something that I recognize as beneficial or good technique exercise, arpeggio pattern, whatever it is, I go, how can I apply this to other chords, other keys, and just to really get kind of more benefit out of it. It kind of tricks you into practicing it more, but also you can work on the theory side of your brain too. So let's take this and just make it minor. Instead of playing A major, we'll play A minor. We'll still play E7 though, so that's a harmonic minor thing, right? And that would sound something like this. Suddenly sounds more of like an Argentine tango maybe, especially if we muted the bass notes. So I definitely encourage you to get good at this arpeggio, do it in a bunch of different chords, different chord progressions. But what I want to do next is take the best part of this, or at least the most beneficial part, the hardest part of it, and just kind of drill down just on that section. So like I said, going back to the open strings, we had 1 and a 2. What if we only did that? Because the rest of it, like I said, it's a good exercise because we're working on kind of sticking the ring and the finger together. And by the way, that's something that you'll do a lot in flamenco, Spanish guitar in the other direction. And so another reason why this entire measure of the arpeggio is great. But let's take out the last two things and just do this. And if we keep doing that continuously, we're going to change the time signature. Watch. So it's pretty weird. Now we're in 3/4 time and we would count it like this. 1 and a 2 and 3 and 1 and a 2 and 3 and. Now, of course, you don't really have to count it. It might matter though in a minute when we put this to some really great jazzy chords. So check this out. We're in 3/4 time now. We're just isolating the best and most beneficial part of that arpeggio. And let's take some chords from the cycle of fours. We'll have D minor 7, going to G7, to C major 7 like this, to F major 7. You've heard a million songs that have exactly this progression. B minor 7 flat 5, E7, which we've seen, with or without your pinky, then A minor, and then turn A minor into A7. Where does A7 want to go? Back to D minor 7. So it's a perfect kind of loop for us. But let's do it now with the isolated part of the Paco Peña arpeggio. It's hard to say. Check it out. See what I did there for A7? Instead of playing it this way, I know I need to be back to this. So I just took the first finger, which was already on C, scooted it up to C sharp, and then stretched my middle finger out here so I have a guide up to this, and it's just going to make it sound smoother. It looks kind of hard. Not that bad of a stretch though. So we go, and we're back. You can see how if you did that enough, you'd really be working out your ring finger while maybe writing a new song or thinking about chord progressions, different keys and stuff. And there you tricked yourself into working on something that we all have to work more on, and that is getting this ring finger up to snuff with the other fingers. So let me know in the comments how you do with this arpeggio, or maybe if there's other arpeggios that you've taken to make your own song or to kind of do variations and work on different techniques. There's a lot of great stuff in that Paco Peña book, by the way. That one is called a Colombianas, kind of like a rumba, and there's another rumba in there called Herencia Latina, which is very, very cool. A lot of great stuff by Paco Peña, really great player, really like him a lot. If you like stuff like this and my teaching, you can get all my courses, all my tabs, my community, my monthly meetups, all kinds of stuff in my monthly membership at theversatileguitarist.com/membership. And speaking of that rumba I mentioned by Paco Peña from that book, check out this video where I show you my top 3 rumbas, and that's one of them.